Can you believe that there are some people in this world that did not tune in to the Alliance Vlog podcast? Shame on you!
Shame on you! My name is Ella Indy, and I'm one half of the NWA Women's World Tag Team Champion.
And I'm Kenzie Paige, the other half of the NWA World Women's Tag Team Champion.
And you better go listen to the Alliance Vlog, what is it called again?
Podcast, period!
Or you're ugly.
Period.
Pretty and power approved. Alright.
Mi gente, you already know who it is. It's the radioactive Pop with Danny Limelight, the United Wrestling Network World Heavyweight Champion. And make sure you tune into the Alliance Vlog every week. You heard it here first. Straight from Pop.
Hey guys, check this out. I am officially now sponsored by Dubby. Dubby is a clean energy drink made to give you focus with no crash. If you guys are like me, you're always needing a burst of energy, especially with one with no crash. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine. It keeps me awake with no jitters, guys. Check it out. Merch link is in the bio. Dubby.
Are you ready?
Power.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
What we've got here is failure to communicate.
I'm building an alliance.
God bless the internet.
Okay, let's party.
It's showtime.
It's time for the Alliance Guys podcast with your hosts Kevin Frazier, Jaden, DKM, and J. Cal.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Alliance Guys podcast, a presentation of alliance-wrestling.com, your number one source for news, for information, and for everything else NWA. It's right here, daddy, here at the Alliance Guys podcast. I'm J. Cal. That's DKM. What's up, fellas? Fellas, it's just you. Sorry.
I know I'm heavy, Jay, but come on. Still only one of me.
I was used to Jaden being here, but I guess Jaden has some other prior commitments.
Oh, he's probably getting fired by Dr. Z again. Anyway.
Happens about twice a week for him, doesn't it?
Sometimes 3.
So we've got a couple of guys here in the chat. Some people we know. Willie Bowen's here. Wrestling with MMA. Jeremy is here. You're eating some burgers and fries. No fries. Some burgers.
I had to settle for chips that I had in the pantry.
What kind of chips? Yeah, you've piqued my interest now.
Just your normal corn chip.
Corn. All right, I'll take it. You know, I was watching the TikTok the other day, and this gentleman took ground chicken, right, and then smushed it super, super flat, really, really flat, like paper thin flat, and then put had mixed a bunch of seasoning on it and all that good stuff. Threw it in the air fryer, and the things came out, and as he was biting into them, it sounded just like your tortilla chip. And I thought, man, that'd be a great alternative to chips. And he said they're eating it with, your favorite dip, guacamole, and oh, I think I made him sick. Sorry, guys. That'll do the podcast for this week.
Podcast over.
And TK's walking out. That's it. Said he's had enough. So, what's good with you, man? How are you been?
Well, as some people know, that I've slowly but surely been getting some stuff done around the house. Had some bathrooms redone. Getting some new flooring put in. And the one thing that I've decided from all this, that if there's ever a time in my life again when I decide to remodel my house, I'm just going to burn it down. Because I'm pretty sure it will be easier and probably not that much more expensive just to rebuild the house. So, as long as I don't claim insurance, I don't know that I would go to jail because that's not insurance fraud. So,
oh, there you go. I think I've told you this before. So we got a shed for the backyard for my wife. It's like she's gonna do that to like a workspace for her that's separate from the house, so she can. Yeah. She calls it the parlor. And
she can call it anything she wants. It's a she shed.
Sure. Well, anyways, this chick, my wife, who is like if she doesn't know, she'll figure it out. And that girl's out there literally cutting drywall, pasting the mud on everything. She's doing a lot of it herself. We had a handyman working on it, and he wasn't working fast enough, so she started doing it herself. And I got it. She's not watching. Like, my wife never watches the podcast, but I'm so incredibly impressed by her ability to just, all right, well, I've seen somebody do it. I can recreate that. It's an amazing skill set. I would have to watch 16 YouTube videos just to know where to start. And this lady's out there just mudding up the whole frigging parlor. I'm amazed.
Yeah, but let's ask the important question now that you're out in the public area. Did you remember to get your permits?
What's a permit?
Yeah, exactly.
No, we permits. It's all temporary work, my friend. This is just it's a temporary thing.
Uh-huh.
No, like whoever buys my house, they're so fucked. Pardon my French. We have nothing aftermarket we have permitted. So like our awning, the concrete, lots and lots of concrete. What are they gonna do? Sue me?
Yeah.
Let's clip this so we can show it in 6 months from now when I'm going to jail.
Exactly.
What's up to Jeremy? What's up to Lane Bricks? What's up to the Jammin' Music Man? What is up, Willie Bowen? We got everyone's starting to come in. We're starting to get some bodies in the house. I don't talk about wrestling until there's at least 20 people in this room.
I know you.
Yeah, I'm joking, obviously. We're gonna get to it in just a minute. We're gonna talk some wrestling. I did see that Lane Bricks offered up a interesting question in DK. I mean, the title of today's podcast is wrestling fatigue real? I mean, we hear it all the. Go ahead.
I said, of course it is.
We hear it all the time when it comes to the entertainment industry. We hear about how there's that superhero fatigue, the comic book movie fatigue. Yeah, I don't register with this, right? Like, it doesn't every time I hear about the superhero fatigue, I'm like, just mainline it to me, hook it right into my vein. I'm all about it. I want to go see. Like, I haven't seen Shazam yet, but I will. I did see. I watched Black Adam on the airplane, and I actually enjoyed it. I didn't think it was as bad as everyone else says. What else did I see recently? I saw. It's been a while now, but I saw the Batman when it came out. I saw. What else? Like all the Marvel. You didn't see the new one?
No, I said you can't get too much Batman.
No, well, you know what? I'll be honest. I didn't see the Nolan Batmans. I think I saw the first one. I haven't seen the next two.
Well, the second one's the best.
That's the one with Heath Ledger as Joker, right?
Yeah. You only need to see the third one if you just want to finish out the trilogy.
But so I hear about this superhero fatigue all the time, and you know, I don't subscribe to that. It's not something that makes sense to me. And when I hear the question is wrestling fatigue, is it real? You know, to me, it's similar to the whole superhero fatigue. I don't understand that because I enjoy wrestling, but I also will admit that, you know, there's some 20 plus events coming up in Southern California, Wrestlemania Weekend, and your boy Jason is going to absolutely zero. I might go to one in San Diego, but nowhere near Los Angeles, nowhere near WrestleMania.
And also, just to put some of what you were saying, though, in perspective, imagine if not only did you go see the movies, if you watched every CW show that had superheroes.
I used to.
And if you watched, I'm sorry if you used to, most of them weren't that good. But, you know, so imagine if you watched every superhero show. Imagine if you know, from CW, if you watched every Marvel show as it came out. You know.
I do. I love all the Marvel shows.
Some of them are good. But imagine if instead of like doing, oh, well, here's She-Hulk, here's, you know, what was that one they did with Vision and Scarlet Witch, the first one?
WandaVision?
WandaVision. Thank you, Jaden.
So imagine if instead of doing one after the other, they had them all out at the same time and they were all 52-week seasons.
I mean, it's not the same, but I'm telling you, man, I'm sitting there last night. I'm watching The Mandalorian at midnight because I couldn't sleep. You know, a few days ago, I was trying to catch up on Andor, and it doesn't register to me. I hear what you're saying. It doesn't register to me.
You could watch 27 hours of superhero shows in a week and not get sick of it. And then go to the movies, and then go.
Well, okay. So let's break this down a little bit differently. If I had 27 hours in a week to watch TV, absolutely I could. Absolutely I could. I don't have 27 hours in a week to watch TV. I do podcasts. I have 2 little kids. I have a beautiful wife who has expensive tastes. I need to work. I need to bring home money.
Well, do you have other interests? I mean, like I have a wide variety of interests, so, you know.
Baseball, wrestling, superhero movies. That's my life, man. I mean, outside of my wife and kids and my business.
You need some therapy, Jay.
No shit. I flew to Mexico City to watch Tyrus defend the 10 pounds of gold. If you had any questions whether or not I needed medical help mentally, that is the answer. I flew to Mexico City to see Tyrus defend the 10 pounds of gold, and I bought those tickets without even knowing who he would wrestle, just hoping that the fat man would be there. I mean, let's break it down. I flew to China because I wanted to see Nick Aldis wrestle Colt Boom Boom Cabana for the 10 pounds of gold. There was a title match set up before I bought my tickets. In blind faith, bought tickets to go to Mexico City, and it's not just the $150 ticket it costs to go to the Smashing Pumpkins concert, which I didn't really see the Smashing Pumpkins. I watched wrestling. Another $350 for my flight, even though I used some of my frequent flyer miles and the hotel and the transportation and everything else involved. I have a sickness, and a sickness is the NWA, but I'm not all people either.
I was going to say, so let's take Jay out of the equation because obviously he's mentally disturbed. So
I never harmed an animal.
Although you did point out you're going to exactly 0 shows during WrestleMania.
Yeah.
Including WrestleMania.
Yeah. And it's and perfectly honest and full disclosure, I had offers for free tickets to shows and stuff, but it's like I run a business. I have other priorities, and I haven't seen my oldest daughter in a couple of months now. So next week she's coming home, and I get to spend some time with her. So that's kind of where my priority is at. With that being said, had someone say, "Hey, I got a ticket to WrestleMania. Do you want to go?" I might have went. I might still, if someone still threw that offer to me, I might go. But a lot of the shows I just passed on.
Of course, you saw a lot of wrestling when you were in Mexico.
Yeah, I saw. I had things worked out, I would have seen wrestling the Friday that I landed, Saturday and Sunday, and then Monday I flew home early. Obviously, if you guys have been listening, my Friday flight got screwed up, so I didn't get there till late. I still caught 2 separate wrestling companies on Saturday. I skipped out on the Smashing Pumpkins. I skipped out on Turnstile. I skipped out on Interpol, and I went and saw CMLL at the Coliseo de Mexico. So that's where I went, or excuse me, the Arena de Coliseo. So, yeah.
Jaden, do you agree that Jay needs help?
He's friends with us. If that isn't signed right there, he needs help.
Exactly.
Right now, we're basically in an asylum.
And the inmates are running the asylum.
And this podcast.
That's true.
Can you believe we've been doing this podcast since 2008?
Feels like we've been doing it since 2008 since I got on, and it's only been 10 minutes?
Well, and it's funny. DK and I were talking offline. I was telling a friend of mine today that this Saturday I'm going to go meet somebody I've known for probably 17 years. Really?
Glorious years. Make sure you got glorious. It's over 13. It's glorious now.
17 of those years, or for 2 of those years, I thought you were a black man.
It was only 2? Really?
Yeah.
I thought that was until last week.
No, I think it's after the first time I sent you a Christmas card. That's when it all got cleared up. But I'm gonna meet you, and I've never met you face to face. I know what you look like. You know what I look like. We've talked on the phone, but we've never met face to face. DK and I met in November of last year after knowing each other for close to 17 years as well. I met you guys right around the same time. There's a couple of guys, Eric I guess he was just Eric Sachs back in the day. I probably don't have a desire to go meet Eric Sachs, but I met him about the same time that I met you guys on the internet. I met Jeff Capo the same way. I would love to go meet Jeff Capo. It'd be kind of cool if he was going to Dog this weekend, but I don't think that's in the cards for him. But this Saturday, it's kind of a big deal. I'm going to get to meet Jaden, and I'm going to get to meet a couple of the other guys. And I think that's pretty cool. Tim is coming down from Canada. I'm not sure. I think he's Toronto, but I don't know for certain. But he's driving down. Dave Scooby, who I've got to hang out with Scooby a couple of times, but he's driving down. And our pal Rick Del Santo from the Pro Wrestling Zone, he's driving down. So we're all going to converge at a dog show. Excuse me, event. I caught myself. I got it before you did. And I think that's really cool. And that's kind of like the community that we have here. And we were talking about wrestling fatigue, and I'm sitting here talking about making friends, but I think it's really cool, and I'm very much looking forward to it. And it's cool that I get to see this wrestling event because I've been covering Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators for close to, it's
Well, since its inception.
Yeah, since its inception. We've been covering it at alliance-wrestling.com. So it's going to be really cool to go and see the event live. I was hoping to see some familiar faces in the ring. Some of them got to be there, some of them won't, but I'll get to see Patch and Vinny the Fixer. I'll get to see Busky Eric Martin. It's going to be a blast, and I'm very much looking forward to it.
You get to see all those great wrestlers and Daredevil Dave Dahl.
I'm wondering, can I talk shit to him? Is that going to be all right? Like, will he know that I'm part of the Alliance, and he needs to just understand that that's what we do is talk shit about Dave Dahl?
I mean, on the event, everybody does. He probably won't even be able to pick you out because everybody talks crap on him at the events.
Okay. We're going to talk more about the dog event later tonight, but let's get back to wrestling fatigue. Jaden, because you know how the sausage is made. You've been a helping hand for many wrestling promotions in the past, as you are a helping hand with the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Tell me about wrestling fatigue. Is this a real thing, and is this something that the NWA should be concerned about?
Yes, it's a real thing. It's also a real thing for fans. It's a real thing for promoters. It's a real thing for wrestlers, even a little less for wrestlers. So it is a real thing. I remember when I was younger, there was 27.5 hours of professional wrestling in unique, not the Mexican version or the repeats, unique wrestling on in my area every week. And I watched every single bit of it and enjoyed it.
That's amazing.
Now, let's see, what's the last wrestling I've watched?
I don't know. What is it?
You watched a little bit of NWA a couple months ago.
Yeah. I mean, all right, modern wrestling, let me put it like that. I watched some NWA. Well, that may be the last modern wrestling I've watched in a long time.
What about an MLW? I know you said you don't watch AEW.
No, I don't. And honestly, I stopped watching MLW too because they started doing a bunch of goofy stuff and I just didn't like it.
I heard they restarted a new FBI or something.
That is interesting. I really do believe that little Guido Nunzio James Maritato is actually Ray Jazz's illegitimate father anyway. And there's another
phrase like that before. I didn't know the father could be illegitimate.
Yeah, he's definitely the illegitimate father of Ray Jazz. But also, and I got other people I'm a huge fan of Hammerstone and of Jacob Fatu and Richard Holiday, and Lance on Hawaii is there. But I don't know. I haven't been able to watch it in a while. It's just not been entertaining to me in a while. And it's a shame because, again, I have people there. I haven't watched Impact. I can't even tell you the last time I watched anything in Impact. Don't watch the WWE. I don't watch AEW. The only modern wrestling, and I don't even consider it that, but the only modern, with quotes, wrestling I've watched is when I go to NWA. When I go to dog events to help out. Almost called an NWA dog.
Wow, you must be really tired.
Hungry, too. Those chips that DK's eating makes me want to go find something to eat.
It's making you a little chippy, huh?
Yes, I want some chips and queso right now.
All right, now you're talking. That sounds good to me. We got to find a good place to eat out there.
Well, if you like thick pizza, it's not traditionally New York, New Jersey style, but Nick's Pizza is has been the home of a lot of historic NWA behind the scene moments that people don't realize. So there is that. A lot of people do enjoy the Landmark, even though it's more of a young person's meet and greet, whatever, but they do have really good food.
So
the problem is most of the great food is out of Glassboro. Unfortunately, a lot of the college food's not that great.
I I think Mr. Del Santo and I and maybe his wife and maybe Dave Scooby. I haven't mentioned it to him yet. I think we're gonna meet up at the Nick's Pizza just because of the historical significance, even though they probably don't know it because of what you said, how it has the historic precedence of being a place where maybe Lawrence Zirconium and Phil Verlies and Fred Rubenstein brainstormed over slices of pie. I think that's pretty cool. So
Atticus Reigns too, myself, Chance Prophet,
DW, Damian Wayne.
Damian Wayne was never there. Damian Wayne was never there, but it's definitely been a place that a lot of NWA promoters, and that's probably why DW wasn't a promoter. But there's a lot of stuff that has worked its way out in that building. That's where I first heard the inkling that the NWA National Championship will be on the line in New Jersey. And that's where Chance ended up winning it. That's where I've heard. That's where the NWA Women's Championship was discussed being. Trying to keep things kayfabe, but to tell Casey Carlisle's opportunity for the NWA Women's Championship was discussed a lot. NWA Coastal, NWA Vintage, NWA Dog. I even think Johnny Calzone was there for NWA Force One at the time.
Oh, yeah. There you go.
So there was a lot of stuff that's came out of that. There was another diner too, but I don't remember where it was. But there was a diner too that had a big NWA meeting at one time. Tommy Cairo was there.
Yeah,
but that's not in Glassboro. That was like somewhere closer to that one event that we did. I think it was actually. Now I think about it. I think it was after the NWA Vintage Dog Joint event where Chance Prophet won the NWA National Championship.
What I really need to know is, are we going to Kashmir afterwards, and should I bring some extra cash?
Well, no. Now it's called the Sanctuary.
Oh,
and I think you should bring a tetanus shot.
Okay, we should probably
maybe some penicillin.
Antibiotics.
Yeah, something like the penicillin, amoxicillin.
Let's get back to the subject at hand. Is wrestling fatigue real? Now, you mentioned like promoters can get fatigued, even some of the wrestlers can get fatigued. But I guess what we're thinking about when DK and I were thinking about this topic is, you've got WrestleMania next weekend, where, of course, there's going to be a lot of wrestling associated with the weekend. You've got New Japan with Impact doing their version of the Forbidden Door, the Multiverse of Madness, whatever you want to call it, where talents from New Japan Strong, and Impact will converge. I mean, I saw that TMDK, along with the Motor City Machine Guns and the Bullet Club, and some other teams are going to be all part of that tag team match, which looks really cool on paper. I know Game Changer Wrestling is going to be out here. I know that they're what's that group? Anyways, there's a lot of wrestling happening. A lot of these promotions are going to be putting pay-per-views on Fight. So like for a lot of wrestling fans are going to be able to dive in headfirst into pro wrestling, whether they're here in Southern California or not. Is that going to impact folks watching the NWA in a week? After all that pro wrestling, after all these pay-per-views, the financial toll alone is going to be pretty high. And then you go and you got to go to Fight and you got to order a pay-per-view. It's not exactly cheap. I mean, what do you think, Jaden? Could this week impact the NWA in a negative way?
Yes, 100%. Again, you only have so much money, and people tend to, when they go to these WrestleManias, they tend to be the hardcore fan that would watch maybe something like the NWA, but they're going to spend a lot of money on not just the travel and not just the hotel and not just the food, and not just the rent-a-car, but all those different events and merchandising and conventions and hookers. They're going to have money for it. They're going to spend a lot of money that they're just not going to have for the NWA. I think it was a bad idea to do it so close after WrestleMania. I think it was a bad idea for them not to do something with WrestleMania. I think
the NWA should have been here in SoCal.
Yeah, I think so. They could have, maybe if they would have been able to put on something good, maybe work with MLW or something like that. Maybe they could have had something together and put on something good.
I think MLW has an event at the ECW. Oh, no, I'm sorry. That's the week after WrestleMania. They have an event at the ECW arena, I think.
Yeah, I believe they do. And maybe they should have done something together then and just did a taping, because I think it would have been interesting to have them both together, because they both, it's like this. If I had money, Impact's not the greatest wrestling promotion in the world. MLW is not the greatest wrestling promotion in the world. NWA is not the greatest wrestling promotion in the world. But if I had money to buy them all, and maybe the networks that they were on, you could put a really solid third brand if you mix all that talent together.
Oh, I 100% agree with you on that, by the way. 100%.
A lot of people are like, oh, you want places to work and you want all this and you want all this. The problem is, and I'm probably going to get canceled for this, I don't think there needs to be all these promotions. I mean, there needs to possibly be some promotions paying for less talent so they could work other places. I mean, it's good, I guess, that these wrestlers are getting paid for Tony Khan and WWE and not being on TV. But if for the health of wrestling, these little promotions, these super indies, these NWAs, these MLWs, these Impacts and everything, they got their niches and they got their audiences, but I don't think it's best for what wrestling is to have them all together and separated. I mean, and not together. If there could be somebody who could merge them together and then use some talent that's not doesn't want to do AEW or WWE and wants something else out of there, like CM Punk or maybe the FTR. Maybe if there was a third alternative, maybe you'll see them, and that could lead to a lot of other things. Miro, if he can get out of his contract or when his contract runs out, he'll have someplace to go that's not the WWE that treated him badly, or not AEW, which is treating him badly. I think a real solidified third option would be what's best for wrestling. Wrestling was always at its best when there was three options, whether it was the AWA, NWA, and WWF, or whether it was WWF, WCW, and ECW. It's always been at its best when there's three viable options, and that's what we need to get back to.
Real quick, I want to say what's up to Jared Philpott, excuse me. Hardcore NWA fan since 1985. Hey, welcome to the show, man. Hope you enjoy. We're talking wrestling. We're talking wrestling fatigue right now, and how it might impact the NWA in 2 weeks when they're in Chicago for their pay-per-view. As Jaden was kind of pointing out, during Wrestlemania weekend, there's going to be about 20 different wrestling shows happening, converging in Southern California. And I'm looking at Fight, and you could pretty much order most of these shows on Fight. With the NWA airing 15 days from now on, I mean, it's even the same week, really, if you think about it, right? If WrestleMania is on Sunday, that Friday is the NWA pay-per-view, which is a different time for them. It's going to be a different day even, but a different time too. It's going to be like a 9 p.m. Eastern time start, which is a lot later than normal. And I'm going to be honest. The lineup isn't a great lineup. I mean, the main event is Tyrus versus Chris Adonis, and the ticket, the buy for this pay-per-view is $25. If you're going to be there live, the tickets are $45 in Chicago, and it's just general admission. And in previous times where they've had like a seating map, a seating chart of where people are going to sit, the pay-per-view, it's going to be first come, first serve. So, I mean, you got to pay $50 for a ticket to walk in the door, and you might not even get front row.
And the fact that it's on a Friday night can't be overstated either. When I was young, Friday night was like the big television night. You got Dukes of Hazzard and Dallas and other shows, you know.
Wow, you dated yourself so hard.
Well, because this was the last time that Friday nights were big. You know, somewhere after those all kind of went their way, Friday night became the graveyard. Where would you send a show to kill it? Send it Friday nights. Its ratings would drop so drastically that you could finally get rid of it.
Well, we, in my generation, which is a little bit younger than you, but not a whole lot younger than you, we had the TGIF on Friday nights, and we had Family Matters and Full House and Perfect Strangers and Step by Step. And so, I mean, I had Friday night was a big night for me. We had Urkel on Friday night.
Well, that's probably what killed it then. But yeah, I don't remember when, but I do remember a few years ago them saying, because the show that I watched got moved to Friday. And that's when I remember reading an article that said that, you know, that's where they send them to die. And
I remember
Friday night was the big TV nights that they used to be. And, you know, it used to be the family stayed home and watched TV. You either watched the nighttime soaps or you watched the nighttime comedies. But now it's just kind of, you know, if your show finishes 30th, but it was on top for that night, well, okay, good. Now Friday's the night that everybody goes out.
Yeah, I'm about to say my days Friday night was date night.
I don't know what's it? Date night? What is that?
That's when you eat lots of dates.
Oh,
that would make sense.
You just have to make sure they didn't know about it.
Anyway,
at least not the other ones, you know.
Well, now that Jaden's got us kicked off YouTube,
it's all about dates.
Mm-hmm.
What? He was talking about the fruit. Hey.
Yeah. Anyway,
careful, that might get you kicked off or canceled there, Jay.
Exactly.
Hey, he's talking about fruit.
Now I got Benny Hill jokes going through my mind. Just to show you how long political correctness has been going on. Benny Hill's been dead forever and a day, I think. But I remember watching one of his shows where he was up trying to tell a joke. And so it was like an ethnic joke. So every time he'd choose an ethnicity, there would be somebody in the audience of that group and they would, you know, complain. So finally he goes, all right. He goes, I'll make them fairies. He goes, they're not real. He goes, so this fairy goes in the thing, and then like all the stage hands go, oh, in a very flamboyant manner and storm off the set. So political correctness are no, they're not. I told this earlier. Anyway, political correctness has been around for a long time. And snowflakes, apparently. I remember when a snowflake was one of those white things that fell from the sky.
I never once fell from the sky. That's rude.
You're the only white guy here, that's why.
Oh.
You know, Benny Hill was the first time I ever saw a naked person on television. And it was on, of all places, PBS.
Yep.
So I too, I was about to say the same thing. I remember being coming of age and seeing a topless woman, and that made me a Benny Hill viewer for life.
I think the best one was always when the grape got caught in between the woman's breast, and then they pulled the camera away, and it wasn't a woman's breast; it was a woman's ass. But
well, now we're off the air.
Yeah, well,
real quick, our friend Danny Deals reached out to me via social media, gave us another 20% off code. If you are buying NWA merchandise, I don't get any kind of kickback. This podcast doesn't get any kind of kickback.
Why not?
because we obviously aren't that big yet. But March deals is the current discount code. Take advantage of it. Get yourself some savings, 20% off. That's like double a tax. I think that's a good win. If you're going to buy some NWA merch anyways, make sure you use that promo code. Like I said, I don't benefit from it, but you can. So I'm going to leave it scrolling on the screen for a bit. If you're going to buy some merch, that's the best way to do it.
Buy the shirt.
Yeah. So, okay, getting back to wrestling fatigue, we'll wrap this up because I think we've gone off more on tangents than we did actually talking about it. So, obviously, the NWA does have this pay-per-view that's coming up in 2 weeks' time, 15 days from now, and I think we've come to the conclusion that it will be negatively impacted by this wrestling fatigue. Is that what we're saying, DK? Is that what we're trying to point out here?
Yeah.
I certainly think it's possible. How much, I can't tell you. But I do think it will affect it. And
Maybe we should have a poll in the chat to see what they think.
Yeah. Do a poll, Mr. J.
All right, I can do that.
And I think in addition to that, there's going to be a couple of other things that probably made this not the best date. But of course, that's going to be the kickoff to Easter weekend. It's Good Friday. And even if you're not a religious person, there are a lot of people that celebrate the secular aspects with Easter. And more importantly, a lot of places are closed for Good Friday. My place of employment is one of those places. And so I know it's also a time when a lot of people will decide, hey, let's take a long weekend trip, or we're going to visit grandma because we visit her on Christmas and Easter, whatever the case is. And so it's just, it's just one of those things that I think it may not have been the best weekend for them to pick, but it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
So let's talk a little bit more about maybe why this weekend was chosen. As we are rapidly approaching April, the Smashing Pumpkins are heading to Australia to promote The World is a Vampire from Australia. Obviously, they've got Jane's Addiction. This is actually a much better lineup than they had in Mexico City. Jane's Addiction, I'm not familiar with Emil and the Sniffers. Jesus. But
I don't think you can say that on here.
What's that?
I don't think you can say that on here.
Maybe not. But what I do know is that in a span of 15 days, the NWA is going to have basically, let me rephrase that. The Smashing Pumpkins are going to have 10 concerts in the span of 15 days. That's April 15th, Saturday the 15th, Sunday the 16th, Tuesday the 18th, Wednesday the 19th, Saturday the 22nd, Sunday the 23rd, Wednesday the 26th, Thursday the 27th, Saturday the 29th, Sunday the 30th. And we're talking, it's not just in one particular area. Like, they're literally going back and forth from New South Wales to Queensland, back to New South Wales to Victoria, to Southern Australia, back to Victoria. I mean, they're literally bouncing around the entire country over the span of these 15 days to present the World is a Vampire Festival, the tour. And each one of those days is supposed to have a wrestling match. So, they really didn't have a whole lot of dates available for the month of April. If the concert, what came first, the chicken or the egg, right? What came first, the Smashing Pumpkins concert or the NWA show in Chicago? If they're booking around the Smashing Pumpkins tour, then obviously, that's the last weekend they have before, they're going to be gone for the entire month. Which is also a really cool problem to have for the NWA, because this will be the first time, probably since the Jim Crockett era, that they're going to have matches almost every day. We're talking about 10 matches in 15 days. That's quite a bit for pro wrestling. The WWE does that, and to a lesser extent, maybe AEW has done similar. But nobody's really running that often anymore. This will be the first time an NWA promotion has had this many matches in this amount of time.
Is that a single match?
Well,
Or is it a card?
So I say match, but what I do mean is a card. What I do believe is if they run these events in a similar fashion to how they ran the event in Mexico, they had 2 events that were basically 45 minutes to an hour long. So obviously that was a Saturday, that was a day-long event. I don't really know how that's going to work in Australia, if they're going to be able to do an entire hour of wrestling in the middle of these shows, or if it's just like, okay, they'll have a match here, a match there. Theoretically, they're going to do the same thing at these festivals as that they did in Mexico. So, this will be a huge undertaking for the NWA, but the reward will be high too, because they'll have, weeks of programming for Power based on these tapings that they're doing in Australia.
Interesting.
And something that's even a little bit more interesting, if I can further continue, is that we know that Tyrus has an autograph signing on April the 23rd in Houston, Texas, which means like right in the middle of this tour, he's going to be either not available or he's canceling his book signing. Tyrus has, made a lot of money selling his book and has been on this, autograph signing all over the United States. And right in the middle of this tour on Sunday, April 23rd, he's supposed to be in Houston for that. So
maybe he can't get off from Fox.
Yeah, I don't know if that's a Fox deal or if that's a self scheduled thing, because it's his book. It's not like a Fox produced that book or anything.
Yeah, but he's still got Fox TV or Fox Radio and stuff too, doesn't he?
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right about the TV for sure. That's interesting. I didn't think about that, because he's usually he is a commentator. He's not typically like the host of the show. So I guess I don't really know for sure, but that definitely has a different outlook for the Australia shows. That he, being the world's heavyweight champion, if he's not available for a lot of those dates, that's kind of gonna, I think that's hurtful for the organization. DK, what do you think?
Well, I pulled up Tyrus's event page, which is,
how many times does it list the buffet?
every day, 3 times a day. So he doesn't have, there's nothing scheduled now until the Houston event on April 23rd. So under theory, he could go there for the first part of the tour and come back, not be there for the last part of the tour.
Or maybe that's a sign.
We also don't really know what they're planning on this tour.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say.
When Jay started telling me, he goes, they're having, these, how many shows you said, 10?
10 and 15 days.
Yeah, these 10 shows. I'm like, well, wait a minute. Is the NWA supposed to be on all of them? Because I thought, they're just making a couple of appearances. So I don't know that we have a full breakdown on what's going on. Or, of course, it's also possible that he'll lose the title at the pay-per-view, or he might lose the title in Australia. So
what would be the bigger deal if you lost the title in Chicago at the pay-per-view, or if he flew all the way to Australia and lost the title to whomever they put in front of him?
Assuming it was put on an NWA person for, whatever reason, I think you could probably make more news out of it taking place in Australia than you could the pay-per-view. I mean, you're going to get whatever news you get over the NWA title change, just, anyway, if it takes place at the pay-per-view. But I think if it's Australia, that might, grab more people's, and look what, during Billy's tour on the thing, Tyrus lost the title to, Rolando.
Oh, Jesus.
Well, I'm just trying to make up somebody that we know will win the title, but,
Well, I mean, like, so realistically, Chris Adonis is no stranger to Australia. He actually worked for our pal Pole Jump in Australia. In fact, he held their Australian championship, not their world title, but their secondary title, and actually held it for some time. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, and I'm not trying to make any assumptions about what's going to happen at the pay-per-view, but like Dave Scooby said, maybe it's a sign that Adonis will win the title, and if he does win the title at 312, then I would assume that he's going to be there for the duration of the Australian tour. If he doesn't win at 312, there's a possibility he might win at the in Australia, like you said. And we lost Jaden.
Well, probably fell back behind the couch again.
He took off his girdle too fast.
I'll go. Yeah, right. I'll go get the broom handle and see if we can, poke around back there enough to get him to come out. Just like the hamster that got lost that one time. But anyway. So, anything else we need to talk? Hey, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
This isn't specifically NWA related, but I've made the statement recently that some other people have pointed out in some of the other shows or some of the other Facebook groups. I said, thought of the day, wrestling fans want wrestling.
It's right in your name.
And so one of the things I've noticed a lot is that our two big wrestling promotions, even the more sports and oriented one, AEW. Anyway, one of the things that they've all gotten into the habit of now is they schedule commercials like during matches, and not even long matches.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be a 5-minute match, and we'll have a minute before and a minute after, and a 3-minute commercial, picture in picture, or not picture in picture. And so, does that say something about a promotion, what they feel is important or not? You never hear an interview that's going way too freaking long go, we'll return at after this commercial and they can finish their promo,
That's true.
I mean, they control what takes place when on the show, so they're intentionally putting it. So are they saying that, the wrestling's not actually the important part of the show? That's kind of the way I'm interpreting it.
I mean, indirectly.
One thing when you're putting on a 30, 40-minute match, yeah, okay, you're going to have commercial breaks during that. I get that. But short 10-minute matches get interrupted. Non-important matches get interrupted,
Yeah. Well, indirectly for sure. I mean, whether they're acknowledging it, saying it in person or not, if you're interrupting a match, a lot of these matches are less than 10 minutes that are on television. So if it's being interrupted by a commercial, I mean, how much wrestling are you missing out on? Yeah, I mean, indirectly, they're saying that, because you're right, a promo has never been interrupted. They never have been like, oh, we have this backstage interview, and as we're talking, oh, we got to go to commercial break. We'll be back in a minute, and come back in 2 minutes, and it's, the promo's still going on. That's a very interesting thing that you brought up.
As one of the, as I wonder about things, that's one of the things I wonder about.
That can be dangerous.
I know it really, really, really is. So, before we hit power, though, because I know you're going to make us talk about power.
Well, we have to.
No, I guess. I do want to bring up NWA USA this week because I always got to bring up the show USA when one of two things happens. When it's really, really good or it's really, really bad.
real quick, before we get to that, Jeremy just wanted to say that he agrees with you. If you go back and watch Raw on Hulu, it's primary promos and video packages.
Exactly. The wrestling's not important. And so, well, here, since Jaden just popped on, Jaden, have you heard any of what we were talking about?
No, I did not.
Okay, I posed the question that since now on the big major wrestling shows, WWE, AEW, and now it's even filtering down into some of the smaller shows, that they interrupt matches with commercials. And I'm not just talking about the big, long 30-minute main event type matches. I'm talking the 5-10-minute matches between guys that you probably don't even care are wrestling on the show. And so my thing is, you don't interrupt a backstage promo. You don't interrupt an in-ring promo. There's, we never throw to commercial at any other time during the show. Obviously, with the nature of what wrestling is, it's intentional that they're interrupting the matches. So are they saying the wrestling isn't really the important part?
Yeah. Honestly, that's kind of been that way for a while now. Wrestling is just a way to get to the more important story of their thought process. The promos, the story, that's the important stuff. The wrestling just happens to be, well, we got to get this done just so we can get to the good stuff. I mean, if you watch old television, it's always kind of been that way for old television, but because the wrestling was more of a to see the stars to so you can say there's wrestling on the TV, and then the promos were to get you to come to actually pay to see the real wrestling. That's why they only gave away a little bit. I remember many a time in the middle of a match, we got to go to commercial. If this happens to end during this commercial, we'll keep our tape machines rolling. So it's always kind of been that way because on the old television stations, the promos, the angles were the important thing that were there to get you to watch or pay to see a live event. And that's kind of what it is now. It's just now, though, the difference is they actually pretend to do professional wrestling with matches with, stars and names and stuff like that. And they still don't give you any wrestling out of it.
Yeah, and even what you're talking about back in the old days, I do remember that, we'll keep our cameras rolling. Those were, it's no secret that back in the day, TV wrestling was an infomercial. It was enhancement matches, and the times when they go, throw to commercial and we'll be back, those were typically the rare times that there was a main event and the match was lasting longer than 4 minutes. Because, I saw somewhere where the average TV match was like 5.7 minutes or something like that. But now they can have a 5-minute match. And like I said, they'll show you the minute beginning and the minute close, and they'll have a commercial through 3 minutes of it.
So it's because the real important stuff is the ending and the intro.
Exactly. So it's just, I do think that I do think wrestling is telling us, because this is what I said. Here's the model that used to work and that everybody says is outmoded and you can't do this in modern wrestling, even though nobody tries. But, TV used to be to sell a show, make me pay money to go see it in person. Now, the show is the wrestling. And so when you're interrupting that, you're telling me that that's not the important part. But I think wrestling fans want to see wrestling. I mean, there are never backstage interviews on Georgia Championship Wrestling. And
there was, but it was rare, and it was usually in front of a locker room, but it was very rare.
And it was typically taped.
Yeah.
Here's us talking to Dusty Rhodes after Ole Anderson turned on them. Which reminds me, some of you out there got family members who, they may seem like they turned face, but don't get in a steel cage with you. I
think he's talking to you, Jay.
I'm Just saying, I'm not naming any names. Just, I wouldn't get in a steel cage with them if I were you.
I've got a sister-in-law who I would love to be in the steel cage with.
She shouldn't get in the ring with you, so, or in the cage with you. All right. So can we talk about USA? Because it's going to be really short.
Yeah, no, that's I kind of know what your ire is, so let's go ahead and talk about it because it was disappointing to say the least. But go right ahead. Yeah.
Right. There were 3 scheduled matches. EC3. Oh no. There were 3 scheduled matches, and one of them to open the show was a non-sanctioned match between Wrecking Ball Legursky and Bobby Fulton, because Bobby Fulton was mad at them for embarrassing him or something. I don't remember what.
He felt embarrassed. You're right.
And so there was no match, which was the best part of it. Not only was there no match, Ricky Morton comes out with a chair, drops the chair, escorts Bobby out of the ring, who no longer seemed interested in wrestling. Legursky's selling a slap to the face as if, he'd been punched by Mike Tyson. And
who slapped him?
Fulton.
Maybe we should get him on Celebrity Slap Fight or whatever it is on TNT.
Slapped him.
Yes.
And so then Jamie Stanley and Joe Alonso come out and hit Morton with the chair, and then that was kind of it. So they had all this BS to promote Kerry Morton versus Alonso. I mean, what?
Yeah.
I mean, what the hell, people? So the first match isn't a match at all. And by the way, if you're going to start an angle like that, here's Devin booking it. All of Jim Cornette. Jim Cornette once had to take on Sunshine in World Class. And Wrestling Commission back then didn't allow intergender matches. Where are they when you need them? So what they did is it was supposed to be Jim Cornette was going to be blindfolded with one arm tied behind his back, and Sunshine was going to get the first shot in. So Scott Casey comes to the ring after Cornette's all bound up, and he was managed by Sunshine. And the Great Kabuki comes to the ring, who is also managed by Sunshine. So Scott Casey Kabuki was a face for a couple of months.
I guess I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they come into so Casey comes into the ring, takes Rick Hazard, who was the referee, I think it was Rick Hazard, off to the side to, kind of go over some stuff with him and everything. Kabuki comes in the ring, gives Cornette a thrust kick, goes out of the ring. So Casey's done with the ref, turns him around. Sunshine's got her foot on Cornette or something like that, and pins him 1-2. 1, 2, 3, and we never see Jim Cornette again because he quit and went to Mid-Atlantic to work for Dusty. So
good move, by the way.
Yeah, smart move on his part. But the point is, if you're going to do something like that, Ricky Morton should have come out with the chair, and somebody else should have kept the referee busy or whatever. Smash Legursky with the chair, and then Bobby Fulton could have pinned him.
Yeah.
And then when he pinned him, he could have grabbed the U.S. tag team belts that they stole and left to the ring, and it would have been triumphal, Bobby Fulton moment and Ricky Morton moment. And no, I can't get that. I had to get whatever that crap was that they served.
Can I make the matters worse for you?
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to our friend Poyo, who does the Pope's Point of View podcast, and the Pope loved the impassioned promo from last week on USA, or maybe it was Power, and has openly said that if Bobby Fulton has another match, he wants to be the opponent. All the while bashing the Ric Flair match, the last Ric Flair match. So,
yeah.
Real quick, because there is, we kind of drag our feet getting into Power. Today is a very special day for me. As I try to open up to you guys, you're part of my NWA family, so I'm going to share a little bit of my real family with you. My middle child is turning 10 today, my daughter Claire, and I just wanted to wish this little girl who has become enamored with the sport of professional wrestling a very happy 10th birthday. She was at the Red Carpet Rumble in Mesa, Arizona. Now, this was her first wrestling show. Not as a baby, because she did go to an earlier wrestling show when she was a baby and literally was held by SoCal Crazy. Here's a photo of her in the stands that I was watching her from across the ring, and then
because you didn't buy her a front row ticket.
Because I didn't buy her a front row ticket, and here's her talking to her favorite wrestler, Kevin Martinson, who she refers to as Purple Pants, right before a TV taping in Irvine. So. I wanted to just shout out my daughter and give her a happy birthday, even though she's not watching. But, part of the reason why I love doing this podcast, and I don't think I ever told you this, DK, is but there's going to be a point in time when I'm no longer here. My kids are going to be able to go to this YouTube channel and they can see, hours and hours of their papa talking about the thing that he was passionate about, pro wrestling. And I think there's something kind of neat about that. And, life isn't guaranteed for anybody, and I'm not trying to get too dark here or anything, but at some point in time, I won't be here, but these videos hopefully still will be. And I'm hoping that when they get older, if they miss their dad, they have an opportunity to watch these videos.
And the great thing is they'll be able to watch them from when their teenage years, and they weren't talking to you anyway.
Oh shit.
So,
oh man.
All right, so let's wrap up USA by saying that the last thing we need is a Mae Valentine interview with Aaron Stevens and Blunt Force Trauma.
That was awful,
but we got it anyway. Can we now let this past us? Can we do like they do in comic books and TV shows and cartoons and everything, where we just pretend something never happened?
I mean, I'm for it. This episode of USA is one of those ones that I hope we could just forget ever happened.
I want to do like the Simpsons did when Lisa lost Snowball 2, her cat, and went through Snowball 3, 4, 5, and 6 before she finally got like another Snowball. And she decides to name, at the end of the show, she names it Snowballs 2 again. And she goes, and we're just going to forget that any of the others ever existed. And they did that they've done that a couple times on the show, where the show just kind of like goes off on this real thing, and at the end of it go, we're just going to pretend like it never happened. So,
and that's how we're going to qualify last week's episode of USA is it never happened.
Yeah, because they did have one match, like Bulletproof Troop versus Jeremiah Plunkett.
That was a pretty good match.
And it's a good match. And again, it's the type of match you're supposed to be having. You got your kind of raw green guy, and he's in there working with a veteran. And, Plunkett made him look better than he really is. And I don't mean that as an insult to Troop. I mean that as a compliment to Plunkett.
Yeah, I mean, but that's what Plunkett's supposed to be used for at this point. Like we'll talk about this in Power. It's not like the Ill-Begotten's tearing down the house anywhere. I mean, they're there to lose. That's kind of what their job is. But they only look good if they make their opponents look good. And Jeremiah Plunkett is great at making his opponents look good. And that was a pretty good match with somebody who certainly needs more seasoning, but has a ton of upside.
Yeah. And then we got to the big insult.
Oh yeah.
CJ was making her wrestling debut in the NWA. Now, let's forget the fact that Christy James has wrestled for the NWA.
But this is Bubblegum's first match.
CJ is making her first match. CJ didn't know what was supposed to happen. CJ was wearing high heels and feathers, which is her actual costume, except for the high heels. But she does wear that type of outfit out to the ring. Of course, nobody went to the back to get Mae Valentine to translate for them,
which would have been helpful.
And I thought maybe one time when the ref looked like he was leaving, I thought that's what I honestly thought. I go, he's going to get Mae. No. And so the only good moment in this cluster, was when CJ was presenting Markova, and Markova kind of went with it and posed too.
That was funny. I did laugh at that.
That was funny. Everything else. So, look, this isn't inside information. No one's come and told me this. But you have to know that Christy James would rather be wrestling.
Yeah.
That's what everywhere else on the planet, she's a wrestler.
She's a good wrestler.
She's a good wrestler. She's held several titles. She's held titles in practically every promotion she's wrestled for.
Yeah.
And we're having to deal with this crap. And again, it's one of those things that makes me go, what was the thought process that anyone said, oh, this is going to be, anytime I see things like this, I think Vince McMahon as he's gone senile.
Yeah. Look, I honestly.
Who sits there and goes, oh, people love this. People are going to love this shit. Here's what we're going to do for the main event of the show. We're going to put two girls in there, and the one's not going to know what to do, and she's just going to, do her little Vanna White thing, and then she's going to get kicked in the face and pinned. Well, eat it up. I'll love it.
Did DK just have a stroke?
Yes, he did, because he watched that crap.
That was the most enjoyable 5 minutes of this podcast that all night, and this has been a pretty fun podcast. Thank you.
Jaden, you go watch that.
I don't wanna.
You go watch that clusterfuck. Sorry to demonetize, but you go watch that, and you not have a stroke.
Based on the face you made alone, I don't want to watch that. I was hoping nobody slapped you in the back of the head and make it stay like that.
That was so disgusting. I mean, there's just nothing else to say. It was just disgusting. Disgusting.
Well,
what were your thoughts, Jay?
No, I mean, I don't think I'm as impassioned about it as you. I do feel like, look, it was dumb. Maybe that they're going to plan on having some sort of, a montage where CJ learns how to wrestle. Maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're going to make her a wrestler, but they want to do it organically and oh, hey, well, you have to train and they're going to show the steps. I mean, that's what I would do in this situation. But I mean,
80s training montage.
Yeah, well, she's an incredible athlete, and that's the thing. If you go and if you follow CJ on Instagram, you can see she just had a great match the other day. I don't remember exactly who she wrestled, but I was just watching the video, and she powerbombed the opponent. She pinned him 1, 2, 3, got the victory, and it looked great. And you're like,
what were you about to say, Jay? Powerbomb the what?
The opponent?
That's not like it was about to say. You were about to say powerbomb the witch.
Oh no, I don't use that kind of language, sir. How dare you?
I'm gonna have another stroke now. Thanks a lot.
But I just feel like that would have been an opportunity. If the idea is okay, we're finally gonna let CJ wrestle. This isn't the way to do it. and putting her in the ring with Natalia Markova, who I honestly believe she's one of the most underutilized talents on the roster because she is very good in the ring. I know you're not a big fan, Jaden, but like watching
That's Jennifer
her,
Coolidge, right?
yeah, watching her in Mexico, watching her in the World Cup against Camille, like this woman should probably be the one that's winning the TV title in 2 weeks' time. And if she doesn't, obviously she's not in the tournament, but I could definitely see her becoming, the number one opponent for whoever wins that title. But this was dumb. And when you have a roster that's lacking quality talent, because look, they brought in a bunch of females to the brand and they're starting to lose them piece by piece. They're getting signed elsewhere. You've got Kylan King, who's now an Impact. You've got Ashley D'Amboise, who's with AEW Ring of Honor. Taya Valkyrie just signed with AEW. The Renegade Twins now working with Ring of Honor. And their talent is just sweeping. They came in and swept like 6 talents in the span of like one TV taping. You've got CJ sitting there presenting when you could have her in there wrestling. And I agree. I think that was not the way to go. If you're going to put her in a match, either let her wrestle or let this be the beginning of a storyline where she learns to wrestle. But yeah.
Why do they do that? They did that with Ring of Honor too. What was her name? Your girl, DK, the one with the glasses and the bow tie. I can't think of her name right now.
Oh, yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Apparently, she ain't that much of your girl. If you can't think of her name, but she was a very good wrestler, and they did a similar gimmick too, where she didn't know how to wrestle.
Well, what was she called in ROH? That's what I'm trying to remember.
I believe that's Brady Pierce's lady, isn't it?
She was the adorable little dork and wore the bow tie. She's on WWE NXT something now. God, I can't remember her name.
I can't either, so don't feel bad. But yeah, they did it with her. Hey, chat, what's her name? I keep thinking Jessica McKay, but that's one of the...
McKay is right. Quinn McKay. Quinn
McKay.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dave.
I'm going to leave that up for the rest of the show just so we won't forget.
Forget what?
Exactly.
But yeah, they did that where they were training her or she was didn't know how to wrestle, and she was a very good wrestler.
Oh,
first time I ever seen her, she actually had greenish blue hair, and wasn't wearing the glasses.
Quinn McKay is married to, engaged to Dak Draper.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. That's why DK hates him. Actually, I knew that.
All right. So, so long story short, USA, let's just forget it happened. Let's get back to what's really important, and that's power. I mean, that's why we do this podcast. This podcast was reinvigorated when we started reviewing Power. And
back when it used to be good.
Yeah.
Podcast and the TV show.
At least we can be honest about that, right? So let's see. Let's get back to
Ellie Kincaid's her name in WWE.
All right. So this episode of Power kicks off with the Thrillbilly basically just dispatching the Spectaculars. Now, the collective of the Spectaculars have been anything but spectacular since their time in the NWA. Has there been a team more poorly named than the Spectaculars? Because nothing about the trio is even remotely spectacular. When you look at their win-loss record, and I did look it up, they've only got like 3 more wins than the Ill-Begotten. And that's not a very high praise.
Surprised they have 3 wins total.
Yeah, that's what they have. The match should have ended the minute that Rush Freeman entered the ring. The match should have ended when Rolando jumped in the ring, but no. The referee just allowed it. Thrillbilly took them both on their own separate thrill rides. Everyone got a ride. Pierce had leaped onto Silas Mason, who caught him midair. Now, it was a little clumsy looking, but also very impressive because it's not like Brady Pierce is a small guy by any stretch. He's a big dude. And you got the Thrillbilly catching him midair and then turned it into his own thrill ride. for the 1, 2, 3. Every member of the Spectacular got taken on a trip around the trailer park, if you will. Silas Mason gets a big victory, but again, like, maybe this should have been a USA match because it's the Spectaculars. I would like to see Thrillbilly get some real competition. And although Brady Pierce is going to be the Michael P.S. Hayes in the Von Erich movie, and you've got the Thrillbilly who's going to be Bam Bam Terry Gordy in the Von Erich movie, this just was anything but a Freebird style-esque match. It was kind of disappointing. I was hoping for more. DK, what did you think about this match?
The match was nothing. It was a good way to put Thrillbilly over. And again, this gives you the chance to watch the subtleties. And so, you watch the subtleties of how Thrillbilly does stuff in the ring, or how Pollo's acting outside the ring. Like when she was spinning, I don't remember which one it was that he was spinning. But, he was spinning one of them, and she's just walking the crowd like that. And she turned and face the crowd and, get into it. She was working the crowd. And, it's these little subtleties that have been so lost in recent years of how to do something that on the surface doesn't seem like a big deal, but everything together, it is.
Agreed.
And so, I mean, for me, it was like, okay, it took him 2 minutes and 12 seconds to beat a guy, and about a minute of it was him actually dealing with 2 other idiots. So, you go figure it out. So, I mean, obviously at this point, the Spectaculars are jokes, and I keep having this fear that Billy will somehow still put him in a U.S. title match, tag team title match. So, and probably put the titles on them.
They're probably the only team he won't break up.
Yeah.
It's all right. So next,
real quick. I wanted to say something real quick.
Yeah.
I actually saw that the Cabana promotion showed up on my YouTube, and I was going to watch it because I saw that that the Thrillbilly was on it, and then I started watching the intro and saw they had that Mercutio, or who's that guy that smokes the cigarette? The great douchebag.
The wizard. Not wizard.
Does a magician gimmick.
Magic Jake.
Yeah, I saw that he was in the intro video, and I decided not to watch it. But I was almost watching Modern Wrestling, and it was because of Thrillbilly.
Well,
it's a start, I guess, right? That's the most I've come close to trying to in a very long time.
You said Kazana promotion. I thought you said Cabana promotion, and there's a Jewish wrestling promotion happening at Wrestlemania Weekend that's highlighted by Colt Cabana, and that's what I thought you were talking about. I'm like, wow, they got TV, huh? Like, good for them.
And actually, from what I've heard, I don't know because I haven't seen it, but kind of like with others, I hear that Magic Jake isn't that bad when he's not in the NWA. When the promoters are using him correctly.
I could see that. Dave Scooby brings up a good point. Logically, shouldn't Bobby Fulton be with the Spectaculars since they are a tribute to the Fantastics? Yeah.
Well, he should either be with them or be upset by them. I haven't figured out which.
A little bit of both.
But they got him feuding with Wrecking Balls, so... if they put him with the Spectaculars or against the Spectaculars, that would be logical, and we'll have none of that.
Oh, jeez. Mike is here. Hey, Mike. How you been, buddy? All right, let's get back to some more power. because that's, we love power. Next up, we had Kyle at the podium with Daisy Kill and Trevor Murdoch. Now, the last time we saw Daisy Kill, he blindsided Trevor Murdoch after his giant beast mode was basically trying to injure Trevor Murdoch. Daisy has a ukulele and starts singing a song, and now I'll be honest, wasn't bad. He had some nice rhymes in there, but this is not what I signed up for. This is, I don't want to watch singing promos. I feel like that's more suited for other companies. But Trevor calls him a Fruit Loop. Says he's, all he wanted to just have a talk with this young man, and all he's done is angered him. So now he wants to have a fight. And so this sets up a non-sanctioned, no rules match. Daisy Kill versus Trevor Murdoch. And this is where they go to commercial break. And DK, what did you think of the promo?
I was waiting for there to be a promo.
All right.
Okay, let me put it this way. I know nothing about Daisy Kill, but based on this interaction, I hate him and do not want to watch any of his stuff.
I'll say this: they called him a wannabe Van Hammer. I think they should call him Mini Van Hammer because he's like a smaller version of the old Van Hammer from the early '90s WCW. I'm not very inspired by what this guy brings to the table so far. So now we get a match. We get Trevor Murdoch in there with Daisy Kill. The announcers are talking about, this was supposed to be a 2-on-1 match, and then Talos shows up. Now Talos is I know him from the United Wrestling Network, Championship Wrestling. He was a part of the Embassy for a short time when Prince Nana was still with the United Wrestling Network. He had the back of both Invictus Cash and Jordan Clearwater while they were under the same group. He caused a lot of interference on behalf of Jordan Clearwater. In fact, he had a match with Willie Mack where he lost. And once Prince Nana signed up with Ring of Honor, he stopped coming to Championship Wrestling, and they kind of just wrote the whole Talos gimmick off. So although he had a few appearances in Championship Wrestling, he really didn't go anywhere. I did a little bit of research. He's a former WWE development, legitimate 7-foot guy. I've seen him in person. He is very much 7 foot. That dude is a monster of a man. And mostly wrestles in Florida with Coastal Championship Wrestling. So this was an opportunity for him to I got to change the battery already. This was an opportunity for him to kind of make a big name for himself in the ring there with Trevor Murdoch. And that's not what happened. Oh man, that's not what we got. We got a very quick match that ended up becoming a fight, and then instead of Trevor Murdoch going to the hospital, we get Mike Knox coming out to make the save, which blurs reality even further because Mike Knox, the last time we saw him and Trevor Murdoch in the ring, they weren't exactly seeing eye to eye. Now Mike Knox, because of his churn on Matt Cardona, I guess he's trying to redeem himself for the sins in the past and helping Trevor Murdoch. DK, I'm boring myself talking about this. What did you think of it?
What's this obsession NWA Olsen has with 7-foot guys?
They've always liked the big guys.
I mean, they brought in the masked dude who sucked.
Beast mode.
And then I heard the other Alliance guys talking about this gentleman, and quite frankly, I mean, he didn't impress me much. If I can Shania Twain here for a second, don't impress me much.
Sure.
And so, yeah, and then Knox comes in. Okay, wrestling's done weird shit like that before. I mean, can't say it's one of the things I've ever liked, but it's not overly surprising. Great. So now Knox and Murdoch are going to be two tweener badasses, I guess. I don't know. Are they going to tag team? Are they going to be a tag team? Is it just for a storyline? Who knows? Billy probably doesn't. So,
would you take them as a tag team? I mean, is that something that sounds remotely interesting to you?
If done right, which of course I have no faith the NWA would do it right, but if done right, if you bring them together, if you can, it was kind of like what they called themselves in WWE, the Bar. Sheamus and who was he feuding with? Oh, Cesaro. They were actually in a feud together, had a best of sevens series, but the seventh match ended in some kind of draw, double DQ, double count out, something. And so they decided to make them team together since there wasn't a victor decided. Then they all sent in overtime, became a legitimate tag team, and held the tag team titles on a few occasions. Okay, sure, whatever.
Mike says Daisy and Talos is Meth, Raven, and Reese.
Yeah. Except for I'm not sure who has the more talent, Reese or Talos. So
same.
So if you want me interested in a Knox and Murdoch tag team, this is not how you get me interested in a Knox and Murdoch tag team. If this were something where like they had been jumped by the Savages or Doom 2.0, then then you could develop a storyline that would probably interest me.
Jaden.
Yes.
They seem to have planted the seed on this episode of Power of putting Trevor Murdoch in a tag team with former rival Mike Knox, who came to his rescue. Do you think that that's a good idea and a good way to use Knox and Murdoch, or do you think that's a bad idea?
I think the only reason they're probably doing it is to have an excuse to get Murdoch out of the title picture without making him look weak.
Yeah.
Knox was okay at best in his prime. Trevor Murdoch was always really, really, really good. There are a couple of big men. If they're going to be feuding with the what are they, Doom 2.0? What are they called again?
Blunt Force Trauma.
Yeah. So if they were feuding with them and that's a build-up match, that might be something I'm interested in, watching a bunch of big guys beat the crap out of each other. That apparently is the NWA's new MO. But apparently the Raven on Wish and Big John Dud, I don't see them being a thing that I would care about, honestly.
All right. Well, you almost made me spit my water, but let's get to the next part of the show. We got Kevin Kiley Jr. with May in the back. So we haven't seen Kevin Kiley since his match at Nuff Said, where he did that dive to the outside that might have killed a lesser man, but he's alive and he's well. And it sounds like they're continuing his saga with EC3, where he mentions that EC3, brought him in and felt like he was being manipulated by him. It feels like they're trying to push this whole control your narrative, kind of like the Ravens flock, speaking of Raven. And he mentions that, he's going to control his own narrative, that maybe his success came too early in his wrestling career, but he's committed to the sport of professional wrestling, this beautiful company, which is a weird way to describe the NWA, that he's back in the NWA because he wants to build himself back up in the sport of pro wrestling. And no one's going to control his narrative but him. What did you think of this one?
You know, I had done everything I could to block that stupid match out of my mind, and it had actually worked. I'd actually totally forgotten about it. And then after all these weeks, they decided to bring this guy back. And I'm like, golly, just right. Dave Scooby's right here. And it's just, if you're going to bring him, they should have brought him right away so we'd, remember. Instead, we gleefully forgot, and then they dredge up that horrible memory. What happened to EC3? Because he used to be a good talker.
I don't have a good answer for that.
It was like WWE brought him up to the main roster where he never spoke. And then he got out of WWE where he changed his gimmick. Well, okay, that's not a bad thing, And he could kind of talk, but you kind of didn't really care what he was talking about anymore. When he was in ROH. And then I think he made a couple of appearances in Impact. And then that whole control your narrative. I don't know who was smoking what crack on what day that they decided to create that thing, which was, let's be honest, it failed. Okay, people? Okay, EC3, it failed. Didn't work. People did not get into it. Even wrestlers thought it was a joke. And so leave it to Billy to decide, hey, here's a really bad failed idea. Let's bring it in. Billy. Where in your 20-year plan did you put, add stupidity to thought process? I don't care about Kevin Kiley. Can I be honest? I just don't care.
Yeah.
He does nothing for me. I was not watching NXT when he was part of it. I don't know that he was ever good. I don't know why you would bring in somebody with this thing of they're not good. I don't know why you take somebody who could talk like EC3 and turn him into a babbling freaking moron, but he did that to himself. No interest. None. I am as interested in this as I am in Daisy Kill and Tall Dude. And I'm not interested in them. And I'm not interested in this, and I'm not interested in EC3. I mean,
this is Alex Riley, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
I mean,
all right. Yeah.
Well, I will say one thing. It took this to make me think that Black G's isn't all that bad.
He was actually pretty good in the first season of Glow. Alex Riley. He played like a wrestler that turned into a stripper, I think.
Perfect.
Yeah. So, but that's honestly, all right. Here's the thing. When you just cannot pick up wrestling once you stop for a while. You can't. Can't be done. So if he was really serious about wanting to come back, then maybe, just maybe, he should have wrestled a bunch first and got his win back and went to a wrestling school and trained and did some stuff for endurance and practice again. Honestly, it's been, a month or two since he's with the NWA last time?
Yeah.
Nobody cared then, and people care less now.
He was at the Nuff Said pay-per-view. He was like he wasn't one of the names that was, built the card. I think it was a match they just threw in, kind of almost last minute. And it didn't shock or awe anybody. And you're right. And he even admitted to it. It's like, I do I have ring rust? Yeah, absolutely I do. But to your point, like if you have ring rust, then maybe you don't come back on TV until that ring rust is cleared up. At least give me something worth watching. When it's bad, like you're not making me like, okay, well, I'll root for him and hopefully he gets back into ring shape. No, it just makes me think that you don't know what the hell you're doing. But let's get to the next segment, which is thankfully EC3 and Black Cheese with May in the background. Now this promo I think made it to social media early. Basically G's and EC3 are very happy for Tyrus. That's what I got from this promo. But both of them knew that, Tyrus is a busy man. Tyrus is a world champion. Tyrus is on Fox News. Tyrus is signing books. And G's opportunities were diminished while Tyrus is out doing all these things. And so they started a brand partnership with the Control Your Narrative and the Church's Money to kind of bring this a new stable to the NWA. So essentially you've got Black G's, EC3, and I think Jordan Clearwater somewhere in there. But there's nothing really going on. We know that EC3 will be facing Scion at the 312 pay-per-view, but they didn't even talk about that. They didn't really even talk about this pay-per-view at all. They mostly just expressed their happiness that Tyrus is being successful and that EC3 is only emulating his friend by working with Black G's to get those same opportunities that Tyrus has been presented with. So again, I think DKM just left. So then that was that.
Real quick, to me that just says that the NWA is not Tyrus's most important aspect to him. Right. So that's saying the NWA is not as important as being a third-rate co-host on Fox News or signing a ghostwritten book or something like that.
Well, and I think that they're planting the seeds now for an EC3 and Tyrus confrontation at some point. During this promo, EC3 brings up their time at FCW, their time. They said an internet wrestling game show. I don't know what they were talking about. Maybe that was NXT. I'm not entirely sure. But then they brought up the Impact days. They didn't mention it by name, but if you go back and watch during Impact during EC3's championship reign, Tyrus was one of his dudes, and so the friendship is, I guess, still prevalent. The brotherhood between G's and Tyrus is still intact, but I believe that they're planting the seeds now that down the road we're going to get an EC3 versus Tyrus match.
Yeah, that's a match that everybody's been clamoring for. Honestly, when they start doing that, though, when they start mentioning FCW and NXT and Impact, it just makes the NWA look more minor, in my opinion. Here's when we were in the big-time promotions. Now we're together here.
Yeah, and like, I'll be honest, he went about it in a way where it didn't feel like he was diminishing the NWA, but he certainly made it seem like, they're focusing on some of the history that they have. But, he didn't mention Impact by name. They didn't mention NXT by name. They mentioned FCW, Florida Championship Wrestling, but that wasn't by name either. So it's kind of hard to say. DK just showed back up. What did you think of the promo with Black Cheese and EC3?
It was fine. As long as you didn't listen to EC3. I mean, look, again, EC3 has kind of become a babbling jargo I don't want to listen to. So it's they said a bunch of stuff that I didn't fully, get. I heard Jaden say, when they're talking about Tyrus and everything, and they're celebrating Tyrus. No, they really want the world title. I don't know. I have no. They've not done anything to make me interested in them.
Next up, we get our pal Kyle Davis in the back, and it's from the Control Center. And essentially, he's just introducing the match from Nuff Said, which was the hardcore, uncensored, whatever you want to call it, no rules match between Camille and Angelina Love for the NWA Women's World Championship. Now we've already talked about this title match at length when we reviewed Enough Said. I'm not going to spend any more time talking about it tonight. It was a fun match. If you didn't see it before, go watch it. It was probably the best Angelina Love has looked in the NWA. It just proves how tough Camille is, because even at Angelina Love's best, she still isn't in the same league as Camille. And it was just, it was pointless. I get it that they're running out of content and they have to do something to fill the time. But I kind of wish they would have went further in the vault. Give me Camille's first match. Give me Camille versus Serena Deep. Give me something that I haven't seen in a long time. If you're following the product right now, you probably saw that pay-per-view match. There's no reason to air it again. They should have showed me something I haven't seen in a while, or something I haven't seen before.
Based on the numbers, nobody had seen it, so that's probably why they started showing it.
I mean, there might be some truth to that.
Camille's the hottest thing they have right now, and they need to milk. I'm not going to use those words, but they need to find a way to capitalize on her as much as possible until she goes somewhere else. It's going to happen eventually.
Look, I mean, I just threw it up right now. You had Camille at the Lucha Libre World Cup. Team USA was victorious. There she is with Deonna Purrazzo and Jordan Grace. And even though, like, these are Impact wrestlers, with Camille, like, it feels like she's in a bigger competition right now. This feels more meaningful, more important than what she's been doing in the NWA as of late, which is not good for the NWA. The Lucha Libre World Cup, similarly to like the World Baseball Classic, is pitting, instead of teams against each other, nations against each other. Jordan Grace and Deonna Purrazzo don't team up in Impact. Camille has never teamed up with either one of them, but for one night, they put the three of them together. They win this match, and it's kind of a big deal. And it feels like a big deal. And it, like, honestly, to me, that's a lot more meaningful than a victory over Jordan Grace. The one thing that they did mention is that the NWA will be airing those matches from Mexico City. And I would imagine that's probably going to be next week leading up to the pay-per-view, or it could be immediately following the pay-per-view. Not entirely sure, but I think now's the time to pull those out when you're running low on content. James H. Jackson says, I feel she'll end up in Impact sooner than later. That's definitely a possibility. I mean, at the very least, that Camille's going to be under contract to the NWA for at least until the end of the year. But after that, I don't know if how many more extensions or how much longer Billy can lock her up for. But we'll get to the next segment, which is the talking head segments with the Sinister Minister and Taya Valkyrie. I love these. I think this is such a cool thing that the NWA does. And I hope they continue to produce these, because it just makes every match that they highlight more important. Sinister Minister, speaking on behalf of Max the Impaler, predicts victory. Taya, she just made her AEW debut, so she's got to lose, because otherwise it really messes up the pay-per-view of 312. But like I said, the talking head segment was good. Taya mentioned not being afraid of Max the Impaler, that La Guerra Loca grew up on the streets of Mexico City beating monsters. So they did make they purposely put Taya Valkyrie in a spot where she shined. She looked good. And with James Mitchell speaking on behalf of Max the Impaler, he kept putting her over as well. So, I mean, it was a great promo package. I really felt kind of set the tone for the match. DK, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, I mean, they've done well with these promo packages. So, although I do laugh every time our very Canadian person talks about growing up on the mean streets of Mexico. He trained down there. And I don't question that she probably trained on the mean streets of Mexico, but right. She praises it. She grew up on the mean street. There's a reason she debuted while AEW was in Canada.
Yes.
Maybe one day we'll grow up and it'll be the mean streets of Glassboro, New Jersey I'll grow up on when I eventually grow up.
In rustic Glassboro, New Jersey.
I'm going to grow up on the mean street that Jay lives on.
I don't know, man. I don't know. So the match starts. The referee is extremely lenient to the beginning of this match. You know, the old-fashioned, well, until both competitors get in the ring, we don't ring the bell, which was prevalent here in this match, which was probably for the best, because if it was strictly limited to the 6 minutes and 5 seconds, the show would have been over very, very quickly. We had Taya and Max battling on the outside, tit for tat. At one point, Max the Impaler puts Taya in a chair and then just wallops her while she's in the chair. Then they reverse roles somehow, some way. Taya Valkyrie gets the advantage, puts Max in the chair, and she does a crossbody onto Max, which basically doesn't move Max at all. We just kind of show how big she is. Excuse me, how big they are. I really want to get it right. I don't mean to be offensive. So Max and
well, she's competing in the women's tournament, so I think she can be a she for that.
Look, I'm just trying to, like, if somebody's pronouns are they, them, I want to try to get those right, because that's what they asked for. But they, them were able to basically dominate this match from the very get-go. Max was in control. They attacked Taya early on in the match and really didn't lose control of that for the entirety of the match. They got in the ring. Taya would get some offense, but essentially Max was very unbeatable. A couple of times, Tim Storm on commentary mentioned, "Hey, does Max even feel pain?" Because a lot of these shots aren't even registering, and you'd see it where, you know, Taya would hit a move and Max would sit there for a second, get up, and just be right back at it. And what's interesting is if you see some of the video footage online of Heidi Howitzer and Max the Impaler from DDT, they're currently in Japan, and watching Max in Japan is it's like a mix between watching George the Animal Steel and Big Van Vader. It's a very weird dichotomy. I was watching Max sitting ringside, not paying attention to the match, eating like crackers or something. It was very interesting, to say the least. This match, though, was very intense. This is basically Taya Valkyrie's swan song, as she did the JOB to a short arm lariat from Max the Impaler, ending the match 1, 2, 3 for Max, setting up the women's TV title tournament in Chicago. The finals are set. We've got almost said Natalia Markova. We've got Kenzie Paige taking on Max the Impaler for that women's championship.
I wonder who's going to win.
Yeah, Jaden, tell me, what do you think about that matchup, though? I mean, because you've got, in the world of, if this was a man's match, if I could liken it to two men wrestlers, it'd be like Vader versus like, oh man, somebody small, somebody nimble.
Brian Pillman.
There you go. It'd be like a Vader versus Pillman. That's actually pretty good, pretty good
analogy.
Yeah. What do you think of this matchup?
Do you remember Gil Kim versus Awesome Kong?
Yes.
If done right, that could be really, really good.
Yeah.
Do I have the confidence that it's going to be done right? I don't know. I don't know either of them well enough to give you an honest opinion on that one. But I guess I can't wait for another championship in the NWA. I think they need more of them.
DK, what were your thoughts?
Well, on the match itself, it was what it was. I mean, Taya did the time-honored tradition of saying goodbye.
Yeah.
And based on the way this match went, I think it was known she was saying goodbye. You know?
It kind of makes me think, like, how long did they know in advance that she would be leaving?
I think enough. I think she probably knew one way or another that was probably her last taping. And then, and it was just a matter of time before she would end up in AEW. She may not have known that she was going to end up in AEW as quickly as she did, but then again, it was in Canada that had been on schedule, so she may have known when she was going.
She made the most of her time, though. Think about it. She was in the NWA, she was in MLW, she was in Impact all around the same time.
And AAA, and she's
And
still
AAA, yeah.
She's still currently the AAA Reina de Reinas champion and the MLW featherweight champion.
Yeah, Triple A, I don't think that's a problem. They've had the AAA tag team titles, in AEW, and they've had the AAA mega mixed tag and mega, whatever they call it, that Kenny Omega held. So I am a little bit, NWA kind of said goodbye to her in the tournament. Impact took the tag titles off her, even though it didn't show on TV until the night after. But they had taken the tag titles off of her. MLW seems to be the one that may be screwed in this situation. I don't know if they're going to allow her to drop the title or not. AEW. I don't know if AEW will allow her to drop the title or not. But hey, if you don't sign your champions to contracts, guess what, you idiots? So now let's look at the main event.
What's the main event?
For the TV. No, I mean for the TV title.
Okay.
Final is what I mean. The final.
Okay.
So as soon as Miss Paige won her match, everybody was like, "Oh, she's going to be the champion. She's going to be the champion. She's going to be the champion." And then it was like, of course, now Max has won her match. So now we got that Brian Pillman versus Vader matchup. And almost if there was a problem with the match that we just had, is that since Max sold so little for Taya Valkyrie, who, let's be honest, not a small person. Not a small person compared to Max, she's up there. The question becomes, how do I now make Kenzie Paige versus Max believable? And even more than that, how do I get if I want Kenzie Paige to win and not Max, how do I get her to go over in a believable fashion? And so it's enough of an intrigue to make me interested in the match. What about you, Mr. JJ?
Well, I think our boy Jaden just really kind of hit the nail on the proverbial head with and I just tweeted it too, the call of an Awesome Kong versus Gail Kim. Now, Gail Kim is a legend in the business. Awesome Kong is a legend in the business. Both of them deserving all the flowers that they get. Kenzie Paige is, I think, 21 years old, still very new to the game. I mean, I guess she's been wrestling for about 5 years now, but still very young. And Max the Impaler, I'm not exactly sure how long they've been wrestling, but, the fact of the matter is that they have competed in Japan and they have wrestled all over the world. Max is a very good wrestler and very entertaining to watch. And if they can pull off a match anything like what Gail Kim and Amazing Kong pulled off for Impact, I think that would steal the show. And I think that would be amazing. Now, DK, you sent me something earlier today. I'm gonna put the link in the chat so that you guys can go click on it yourself, because I don't know how to play it here on the podcast. But essentially, Kenzie and her sister cut a promo that they put up on Twitter earlier today, and it very much seems like there's some scheming going on. We got to remember, Pretty Empowered isn't just Ella Envy and Kenzie Paige anymore. It's 4 members strong. It's Kenzie's sister, which I don't know her name, I apologize, and it's also Roxy. Now, that's 4 women against 1 Max the Impaler. I still like Max's odds, to be quite honest, but it definitely means that there's an opportunity for some chicanery, if you will. I don't know what's going to happen, but, again, if they can play up to the idea of like an Amazing Kong versus Gail Kim, I think that would be outstanding. If there's a way that they can use the 3 other members of Pretty Empowered to help her steal the title away from Maxine Paler, that also would be impressive. But I wouldn't mind if Max just was dominant and won the belt either.
Well, I was going to say, one of the things that we have to remember in the early Gail Kim had,
Cal Gim, huh?
Yeah. Smoking too much weed tonight, I guess. I don't know. The fact that I don't seems to be irrelevant.
He caught an elephant.
You. Anyway.
I'll never forget that.
I don't remember who said elephants never forget, but boy, were they right. Anyway. Kong won most of the early matches in that thing, and including winning the title. It wasn't until later that they, became a little more competitive with who was going to win. Early on, Kong was the monster, and Kong destroyed. And so, Kong was a former NWA women's champion.
And the AWA.
And one of the versions of the AWA women's champion at the same time. So,
that was awesome.
Suck that, Sheik. And
that was funny to me. Sorry.
I try. Anyway. Yeah, it's just I think they can have a good match. I'm not saying that they can't. I'm saying, but now you got to really work. And, look, they got Medusa, they got Jazz working for them behind the scenes. I mean, I'm certainly going to trust those 2 ladies to be able to be able to know how to do this. I mean, let's be honest, when they had their 2-night NWA 75th, both nights, the match of the night was Camille and her opponent. So the women do have a history of stealing the show. And so I'm not saying, and maybe I'd steal it from Camille and the Black Rose, but, we have a chance to certainly have a good match between them. It's going to be interesting to see how they put it together, because there's also a chance you can have something that really sucks when you have you could have a Billy Kidman Hulk Hogan match too.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
man.
So I mean, here's the hoping. I did find it interesting that everybody was just really into, well, we know Kenzie's going to win. We know Kenzie's going to win. And it was like Max becomes the other person. And then people were like, well, I wouldn't mind seeing Max with the title. But what I really want to know is, what does the belt look like?
Yeah, that sounds like something you would want to see.
Currently, all their women's belts are ugly, so I have a feeling it'll stay that way.
Well, we know it's not our pal Dan over at Dan's Belts. It's not one of his, so it can't be that good.
No. Belts by Dan. Unfortunately, he lost his connection to them when Lagana and Marquez left. So,
isn't it kind of weird that Marquez, he helped design the New Japan Strong Belt with Dan. They did the New Japan Women's Championship. Dan did that. He did the New Japan World Championship that everybody absolutely hated. I do believe he did one.
He didn't design that one, though. He just made it.
Okay. Well, I'm just saying it's kind of interesting.
Is he going to make the Alliance-Wrestling.com championship?
I can't afford Dan. I can't afford his prices.
Dan's a excellent belt maker, but he is the top of the line and top of the price list.
Is he the one that made the DKM NWA Junior Heavyweight Championship?
No.
Who was that? The one that was based
Kevin
off of.
Epperfield. That was
Yeah.
All-Star Championship belts, and I don't believe he's still making belts anymore.
No, they were originally two different people. There were a partnership, and they split, and one person kept the All-Star name, but the person who actually designed and made the belts became like Universal or something like that. And the best of my knowledge, both of them are out of the belt making business.
Then what is Belts by Dan? It sounds familiar. I'm trying to picture what he did. Did he make the
the national title, the current national titles, one that he made.
Well, that's not something to brag about.
Well, again,
he just built the design. He's the one that's done all of the United Wrestling Network titles.
So the United Wrestling TV title's done by him. The United
World title's
done by him. The United Women's title is done by him. He didn't do the tag titles. Right. He did do the IWGP current championship that looks like the Divas belt. For those who are wondering, nobody probably would have thought about it if it hadn't been for the Divas belt. It's supposed to be a shield. But because of the way it was made, it comes out looking more like the outline of the butterfly for the Divas Championship. And so I kind of feel bad. He didn't do that. He made the current NWA Tag Team title belt. He made the current NWA Women's title belt, although he's admitted that one's in rough shape and could use some redoing.
Somebody tell me they remade it or made it bigger. Is that true? Or making a bigger version of the Burke?
I haven't heard. It wouldn't surprise me if they're remaking it. Again, like I said, the current one, it's lost all of its shine.
All of its luster?
Yeah, and the jewels still sparkle nicely, but the belt itself has lost a lot of its shine. So it wouldn't surprise me if they're making another one. And it wouldn't surprise me if they did that in combination with the TV title. But, the problem is because they went with that Burke style, and then Billy decided to repeat that on the tag team belts, but instead of using nickel, he used the gold plating for that, and it's kind of weird. And by the way, I've seen those tag team belts up close and personal. I was there when Jay was filming his introduction, and I stood next to them and everything like that. Oh my gosh, those plates are horrible looking. I mean, they look just like a toy one. I'm pretty sure that I could have just taken the belt and gone with the plate. So, maybe he's getting some new belts made. Now would certainly be the time since he was getting a new women's belt. But my thinking is that it'll look just like the men's TV belt, but it won't have any side plates.
Well, the TV belt and the 10 pounds are the only belts in the NBA that I don't find fugly.
Hey, I like the tag team ones.
I never did. I don't know what. I know there's like the cast belts. There's a big, huge love for that. I've never liked the cast belts. I thought it looked better in silver when it was the big gold eagle in the middle. But I've never liked them, honestly.
Most cast belts I never cared about. But I don't know. There was something about them that I just always, they were designed just a little bit different in their main plate. And so I just always liked them better than I did the others. So Jay,
I was glad Rick Rude stole it, so they had to make those new belts.
I hated the new belts, especially
really?
If they were on the bright blue. Oh,
I loved it. That's why the dog tag thing belts. Like I was talking to Dr. Zirconium. That's why the dog tag championships are on the blue because of the NWA. I love those ones.
Yeah, but Dr. Zirconium also puts his dog heavyweight title belts on white. So everybody else uses white for the women.
Dog for the white, red for the WWGP. The WWGP women's title is red, black for the heavyweight, and blue for the tag.
Where are the white women at?
I'm sorry, what?
Sorry.
Don't say that in Glassboro, okay, Jay?
Don't say it.
Don't say that in Glassboro. No, don't do that.
Right. Speaking of Glassboro,
And also don't go, where are the Guidos?
no, I already know better than that. Speaking
That's North Jersey. That ain't here.
Speaking of Glassboro, I am going to be boarding a plane in about 12 hours, honestly, and I'm heading out to rusted Glassboro, New Jersey. But before, I'm actually landing in Philadelphia, and so I'll be actually staying in Philadelphia, but I will be in Glassboro, New Jersey this weekend as Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators presents its biggest event of the month, and that is Beware of Dog, where we're going to see Busky, Chris Martin, challenge
Eric
for that
Martin.
WWGP championship. Let's go.
It's Busky Eric Martin.
Oh, shit. I knew that too. I said it earlier in the show. Eric Martin. Busky Eric Martin. I apologize.
Yes.
Well, Jay, you got to screw up one thing or the other. You either got to screw up one of the names or you got to screw up the fact that it's a show.
Did you hear that I got a vent? I didn't even look at I wasn't even looking at the computer. I was looking directly at the camera, and I had everything right except for Eric's first name. I went with Chris, and that was not correct.
I think you're conflating him and Chris Steeler.
That might be it, but it's also Chris Martin from Coldplay, the famous band from the early 2000s that wrote a song about you and everything that you do, and it was all yellow.
I don't really know how to respond to any of that, so I'm not going to.
Whew, I make myself laugh. Jaden, tell us a little bit about what's happening.
You should laugh. Yeah.
Well, again, there's a double main event. The first one is for the World Wrestling Grand Prix Heavyweight Championship. As former dog champion Busky Eric Martin looks to put a classic whooping on the WWGP champion Chris Steeler to gain a modicum of revenge for costing him his dog championship at last month at the Rowan University. So you got Steeler versus Martin in Glassboro at the last ever event at the Max Fit Sports Center. They're closing the building down. It's being sold as a pot dispensary. It's a pretty big building, so they're probably growing it too.
No, that's a huge building.
Hydroponics. So it's going to be the last ever. This may be, until we find another building, this may be the last event in Glassboro. And it's very fitting that Eric Martin, Glassboro's own, is looking to be the first wrestler to hold the dog championship and the WWGP championship, making history in Glassboro, New Jersey, his hometown, where he went to school, where he lived for years. And he's doing this now he just had a baby. He's going to need that extra money for all those diapers. So he's going to win that championship to not only dedicate it to his newborn child and become the next WWGP champion. That's what I'm calling right now. I'm calling it because the story's there. You know, I know, and unfortunately, I think Chris Steeler might have something to say about it. But I think I'm going on a limb and saying Eric Martin's going to be your next WWGP heavyweight champion. He's got all the skills, all the talent, and he's got the motivation to do so. And once they get that revenge, the only thing you have to worry about is what happens with dog champion. Right now, the dog champion, Justin Adams. Sorry, I have something in my throat. The dog champion, Justin Adams, is he going to help Chris Steeler retain? But then again, he has his hands full already because he's wrestling against the very, very popular Ty Thomas. The last time they wrestled each other, Ty Thomas came out the victor. Now, can he do that and become the become the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Heavyweight Championship?
Man, you're all flustered, dude. It's a big event. This is a very big event that's happening.
It's got me excited and also something choking me in my throat, but I think I inhaled a fuzzy. something. Yeah, I inhaled something. It's been tickling my throat. I'm having trouble talking. But yeah, it's really, really good. I can't wait to see those two matches. You'll also see the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators Tag Team Championship will be on the line, as the Old School Empire of Patch and Vinny the Fixer will be defending. They have an open contract. You'll also see ECW referee, ECW original Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators senior matchmaker Jim Molyneux. He will be there, and he will be setting up a great card. I already know some of the things going on. We're keeping the card kind of quiet right now because we want people to be surprised on what they're coming to see. They know it's the last match, so we're going to put all out as we go. We're going to try to bring out all the stops. I'm looking forward to it. So there's going to be a lot of great wrestlers on this card, and don't forget also Daredevil Dave Dahl.
Yes.
I try to forget about him so much, but unfortunately, I just can't.
And so the Alliance will be there in person. I'll have this camera with me. I'll have this camera with me. I'll be recording content. I'll be taking photos. You want to make sure you stay tuned to the Alliance blog on the social medias. That's Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Tumblr, right here on YouTube, Facebook, and at all points, north, south, east, and west. We'll make sure to document this show as much as we can. I'm super excited about it. We're also going to have the first ever meet and eat, I guess, because I know Rick Del Santo's coming down. I know that Dave Scooby's coming down. I know Tim and his wife are coming down, and we're all coming to see the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. Very much excited for this this weekend. I'm gonna finally get to hang out with you, Mr. Jaden. So I'm also looking forward to that. But guys, that's pretty awesome. You can check out more at dogprowrestling.com. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. It is here under if you look under our channels that we're linked to, they're listed as co-conspirators. Make sure you subscribe to that channel because a lot more great content is coming from Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators. DKM, my friend, if folks want to follow you on the socials, how do they do that?
Do I look social?
No.
If you want to find me on the socials at DKMFWTX, don't annoy me.
Send him cat videos.
And again,
more people doing stupid things and hurting themselves.
That's also true.
All of the links for Dog Pro Wrestling, all the links for the Dangerous Adrenaline Wrestling Gladiators social media are at dogprowrestling.com. So check that out. And of course, we're at the Alliance blog just about everywhere you look. So that's going to do it for us this week. We do appreciate you guys being here on Thursday. I'll be back with you on Tuesday as the pre-party rolls into the last week of March, heading into WrestleMania weekend. We'll be talking all things NWA, and I'm sure I'll be talking a little bit more about Dog. But until then, I'll see you this Saturday at the matches.
Thanks for joining the stream. This has been a presentation of Alliance-Wrestling.com. We genuinely appreciate your support. Would you consider subscribing so you'll never miss a future episode? I'd also like to remind you we do a live stream every Tuesday at 5 p.m. for NWA Power. You can find us on social media at the Alliance blog. And until next time, we are the